Welcome to Image of the Invisible. This is your host, Phil. Jason is off tonight. He is on fall break with his family. But I got a pretty interesting episode here. I guess if you would call this episode anything, it's going to be called as the Mark of the Beast Already Here. I saw an interesting interview with Conrad Finn on Tucker Carlson the other day. And I got a couple snippets to play for you guys. Because he brought up some interesting points about something I don't really know a lot about. I did some research on it, but something called blockchain, which we'll get into in a couple minutes. But I'm in my new studio here. Like I was saying in the last episode, I was moving, so I got a new studio. So actually, I kind of like the studio better than my old studio. So I'm excited to get into this episode because I think it's definitely something that's interesting. Obviously, you take a lot of this stuff with a grain of salt, and because over the years, a lot of people have said, "Oh, is this the mark of the beast? Is this thing in the mark of the beast? Is this that? This, that, and the other thing." So definitely something you want to take with a grain of salt. But after kind of listening to these clips and kind of going through some of this information that we're going to be talking about, I definitely think it's interesting. I definitely think it's possible that blockchain could be the mark of the beast. So you never really know, obviously, because like I said, a lot of this kind of rumors have been circulating for a long time, and speculations about what the mark of the beast actually is or what it could possibly be. So I guess to start anywhere, we're going to start with Revelation 13, and I'm going to start at verse 11. Now, if you want to do yourself a favor, you can read all of Revelation 13. It kind of talks about the beasts, two different beasts, the beast of the sea, which starts in verse 1, but we're going to be primarily talking about the beast from the earth. So I'm just going to read this real quick, just because a lot of people might have heard of the mark of the beast before. Some people may not have. A lot of people have heard of the Antichrist before. So this kind of goes along with it. So anyway, Revelation chapter 13, verse 11. Then I saw another beast coming up from the earth. It had two horns like a lamb and spoke like a dragon. And he exercises all authority of the first beast in his presence, and causes the earth and those who dwell in it to worship the first beast, whose deadly wound was healed. He performs great signs, so that even makes fire come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men. And he deceives those who dwell in the earth by the signs which he was granted to do in the sight of the beast, telling those who dwell on the earth to make an image of the beast, who was wounded by the sword and lived. He was granted power to give breath to the image of the beast, that the image of the beast shall both speak and cause as many as would not worship the image of the beast to be killed. He causes all, both small, great, rich and poor, free and slave, to receive a mark on their right hand or on their foreheads, that they may not buy or sell except one who has the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. And this is kind of like where the mark of the beast comes from, for those who are unsure. Verse 18, here is wisdom. Let him who has understanding calculate the number of the beast, for the number of this man, his number is 666. So the mark of the beast is something that is on your right hand or your forehead, and you cannot buy or sell except for having this mark. So that's kind of like the mark of the beast. Now, I guess first and foremost, I'm going to play this first clip here of this interview. Kind of sets it up a little bit, and then we're going to get into blockchain and what blockchain actually is, because I think it's interesting, because I didn't really know much about it. But this is a little bit longer of a clip, but I think it's relevant, and it's definitely interesting. So check this out. And this is Conrad Finn.
But something I've heard, and something that sounds a lot more like it, is blockchain technology, which is the technology we'll all be using in a few years, for financial transaction, among other things. It's everything's written and recorded, and every kind of transaction is written and recorded on it. And these VCs, they go, well, what's the mark of the beast? So I tell them about Book of Revelation. They go and look up Revelation 13, and they go, huh. And so I hear back from them later, and they said, yeah, we talked to some of the big, other big people in Silicon Valley about this, recognizable people. And he said, well, what's the Book of Revelation? What's the mark of the beast? And some other big dogs looked it up, and their reaction to that was, that sounds like what that is. It was not, Tucker, that sounds crazy, or I'm not religious, or what we're working on is strange. But that the Bible is an old book. We have nothing to worry about there. The reaction was, yeah, that sounds exactly like what the blockchain technology is. So that was the beginning of me kind of stumbling into a very strange story about AI, modern technology, and stuff like that. Here's something else that was very strange that happened. So Mark Andreessen was on Joe Rogan's podcast about a year or two ago, and he talked about how having an understanding of angels and demons, he's hearing is going to be how people really will help them in understanding AI. That there's no precedent for this except for the kind of stuff people saw and believed in the Dark Ages in terms of angels and demons and stuff. And what Andreessen said will happen soon with AI ties in very much with prophecies in the book of Revelation, where he said AI will junk, fake AI, say they call it AI slop, just stuff online that's not real, will become so prolific on the internet very soon that you will need to have some sort of online verification system to prove who you're talking to. So one of the ideas that Andreessen brings up is everyone will need to have an online verification for this. So the concern in Silicon Valley is that you have companies like OpenAI where they have they're creating all this AI content, but then they have another company, a sister company called WorldCoin, I think now called just World, which is an online verification system where you need to everyone in the for it to work, everyone has to be a part of it. You have to have your eyeballs scanned. Everyone gets a number, which is also in the book of Revelation. And so the concern is, and this is again from Mark Andreessen, a guy that, no Kentucky preacher. He's a one of the biggest guys in Silicon Valley, is that everyone will need to be on the blockchain, or else you won't be able to conduct business, because we won't know if your relatives are contacting you, if that's really coming from them, or if this is just a video, state-of-the-art, in a few years it will be normal, state-of-the-art video of someone saying, hey dad, I lost my credit card, or I lost the keys to the house, can you pin me in? And it's actually not them, it's just a video that looks exactly like them, but it's AI. The way around that is everyone will need to essentially be Twitter verified. Everyone will need the blue tick that says this is Tucker Carlson, this is so-and-so.
Right.
So that kind of sets it up, especially with AI and stuff like that. Just recently, I was just listening to a podcast, the Boys Cast, and they were just talking about ChatGPT, which just created a new version. I guess they have like a video version of the AI on ChatGPT, which is even better than the version before, and I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head. But they were talking about how like a lot of these deep fake videos are going to become even more normal than ever before. So this kind of leads credence to what he's mentioning here, where AI, with people using AI to try to trick people into, scamming people out of money, or even just doing deepfake videos of, you could do a deepfake video on anybody doing anything, that, puts them in a negative light or whatever, so with this coming around, especially with the financial side of things, it kind of makes you wonder, how are they going to be able to kind of turn the tide against this? And so by using blockchain and some of these other things, which, from what he's saying in this clip here, it definitely sounds like something that sounds like it could be the mark of the beast type situation. Where unless you're verified, unless you have this verification, you're not going to be able to buy, sell, or trade, because they're not going to be able to prove, you're not going to be able to prove who you are, just because of how many deep fake things there are out there. So what is blockchain? So I had to do some research on blockchain. So now keep in mind, this is an AI overview of blockchain, which I think is interesting in its own right. The technology was first introduced in 2008 by an anonymous person or group using the synonym Satoshi Nakamoto to create Bitcoin. So that's kind of how blockchain started, which I thought was interesting in its own right, that no one knows even who created it, which I think is kind of strange. Why wouldn't you want to take credit for that? With the success of Bitcoin and everything, being in such a monster, that it is kind of strange that no one's taking credit for it. Which is just kind of weird, kind of like an aside to this whole thing. But blockchain technology is a decentralized distribution of digital ledger that transparently and securely records transactions across a network of computers by storing data in a chronologically linked blocks via cryptography, and it creates an unchangeable and tamper-resistant record. So essentially, what this is, it creates, it's like its own version of like banking, where you would basically wouldn't need banks anymore because of this blockchain. It could essentially take over for that, and it's almost impossible, from what I understand, to delete or change information once it's uploaded to this blockchain. So it's just very, 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 very interesting, and something that I could definitely see how he would think that blockchain could be a part of the mark of the beast, for sure. I mean, like I said, you gotta always take the stuff with a grain of salt, for sure. Now, one of the things I think is interesting are some of the applications of blockchain. It could take control of many different things. So they give a few different things here. So supply chain management, tracking goods and ensure freshness and safety and origin. It could do that. In healthcare, it could manage patient data, enabling interoperability. So all your medical information can be stored on this. All your finance, facilitating transactions without intermediaries like banks. So essentially, it could take over for banks, and banks would be a thing of the past. Which sounds, kind of like a one world government, one world money, one world thing. And not only that, it could take over the food industry by tracing contaminations to a source by reducing waste. And those are just some applications of blockchain. So it's not only just restricted towards money or banking, it's also in other forms of business as well, or it could be used in other forms of business. Now, how blockchain works, just to give you more explanation, because I just think it's interesting. Because when I first heard the word, I had no idea, understood what it meant. So number one, transactions are grouped into blocks. So that's kind of like where it gets its name. When a transaction occurs, it is recorded into a block of data. Number two, blocks are linked cryptographically. Each block contains a unique identifier of a previous block, creating a secure chronological chain. So that's kind of how it's getting its name. The chain block, it's a chain of transactions. Data is distributed. The entire blockchain is copied and distributed across many computers and nodes in the network. Number four, consensus mechanism. New blocks are added to the chain when the network participants reach a consensus agreeing that the block is valid. Number five, an immutable record. Once a block is added and is validated, it is virtually impossible to alter or delete, ensuring the integrity of the data, which is something that a lot of people have always worried about. So that's kind of what blockchain is in a little bit of a nutshell. So what I think is really interesting about blockchain is how it just kind of literally seems to be synonymous with AI, and just connected with AI directly. They seem to go hand in hand. Obviously, blockchain was created well before AI was even thought about, but now that AI is here and AI is becoming a larger part of everyone's life, whether they realize it or not, it's very interesting. I want to play another clip here, clip 2, and this is about what AI really is, or what it could be. Check this out.
Ask a question I should have asked earlier,
Sure.
which is, do the people involved in the financing and the developing, the creation of AI believe that it's a spiritual entity, that it's more than a machine?
So this is Tucker, the trillion-dollar question. The idea of intelligence, to say nothing of artificial general intelligence or AGI, these are all pretty murky terms in terms of what people are actually talking about. They talk about creating artificial intelligence. The real question, and the real thing I think they're concerned about, or we should be concerned about, are you creating an artificial intelligence, or are you giving a body to a pre-existing intelligence that previously wasn't incarnated in the physical world?
No, that's an interesting and kind of chilling thought about AI in general. Kind of like what he brings up there, and like the people he's talking about are Silicon Valley people who aren't really religious, and if they're kind of concerned that they don't know where AI is kind of getting its how is it working as well as it is working. It's definitely very interesting because don't get me wrong, AI is very beneficial to a lot of people as far as it makes a lot of things easier. Even with like for the podcast and stuff, when we do clips and stuff, we use Opus AI, which basically, if no one ever doesn't know what that is, basically you upload a video clip to it, it listens to it, and then it'll make like shorter like viral clips out of those clips, out of the main clip. It'll write down exactly the best thing to describe the clip, what hashtags to use, all that kind of stuff. So I mean, it's a very good tool, but just the speed in which AI is becoming very, very popular, and the speed in which it's getting better and better and better and faster, is this? It just seems very strange to me. Like it's just how quickly that it's becoming a part of our lives, and how like so many people are embracing it, and like you can obviously, if you want to do yourself a favor, you can Google a lot of people have conversations with ChatGPT and stuff like that. They'll ask it questions, and I think that like those kind of videos are interesting. So if you want to go down a rabbit hole, just look up ChatGPT and people asking it various questions and stuff, and some of the answers are kind of interesting and chilling, I think. Now, with AI, a lot of people are afraid of the future of AI, and what does the future hold with AI, and the blockchain and AI and all this stuff, and the combination of the two. And with AI, I think it's really weird and dangerous where like it could go. Obviously, like kind of what I was mentioning before about the fakeness of it. Like people can create videos and they're almost undistinguishable from real, so you can't tell what you're watching or what you're seeing, whether it's real or not. So if that becomes such a major problem, then they're gonna have to create some sort of, they're either gonna have to shut down AI altogether, or they're gonna have to create some sort of something like he's kind of saying here, some sort of verification, something or other to ensure that people are who they say they are and stuff like that. So I think it's very interesting. So the next clip I want to play, I entitled it, "Is AI Taking Over the World?" So check this out.
On a global
In
scale.
the specific case of the mark of the beast described in Revelation, as I recall, you probably read it more recently than I, but it's a mark without which you cannot conduct commerce. So basically everyone's compelled to receive the mark, but those who receive the mark make a big mistake in receiving it.
Right. Yeah. Yes.
And they are punished for it. So in a big way.
Right.
So if we get to a place in the next couple of years, sounds like we are, where you can't participate digitally in commerce or in communications without the mark of the beast, without the permanent mark on the blockchain, like what's your option?
I mean, your option is just not to conduct business and do those things. I mean, God will find a way for those people, even if it's the end of their lives. That's just the way that's going to shake down.
So like that's a hard no.
Yeah. Well,
for you, is it a hard no? If you found out tomorrow, no more Amazon for you, unless you register on the blockchain, what's your response?
I'll just go back to living like people did back in the old days of 1996. You just chill out and read a book, I guess. No, I mean, what'll probably happen too is you will have people in tech, and I know they exist, who are alarmed by this, who will intentionally devise ways around this for people. Similar to people creating catacombs for the persecuted Christians in the early days of the Roman Empire, you will have people who will find ways around this to hack it.
Do you know non-occultists? Do you know Christians in tech?
I thought you were going to say in general. I'm like, yeah, I do. Do you know anyone who's not into weird stuff? I'm like, I know people like that. And I've heard people who, I've got a friend, Tucker, who, he's become a Christian in recent years, and he works for some of the big companies. And he said, he goes, some of what, and he's works as an engineer. He's like, some of the stuff that you see cannot be explained through normal math material stuff. Some of the stuff that's coming through. And, for people who
Coming through from AI.
Yeah, coming through from AI. And
It's actually the wrong clip I wanted to play there, but that's okay. That was kind of the last clip I wanted to play, like our way around the Mark of the Beast. So just to finish that thought and what he was kind of talking about there, there always is ways to get around that kind of stuff for sure, and to live off grid and stuff. So I don't think it's going to be impossible, but it's definitely going to be more difficult for sure. And what I think the most chilling thing he said at the end there, where he said, it's almost that with some of the stuff that with AI is doing, it's almost like you think he said there, he's like, we don't even know how they're doing it or how it's happening or what mathematics are leading to this. So which is kind of scary, a scary thought really, where, if you look at AI and how it started a few years ago, the first videos, I don't know if anyone's seen, we kind of talked about this before in a previous episode, we're talking about AI. One of the first AI videos that was going around was of Will Smith eating spaghetti. And if you've ever seen that video, hold on, little guy, come on, buddy. If you've ever seen that video, it's just, it looks awful. It doesn't look real, obviously, like that or anything like that. It's just very, very weird looking, Fast forward to now, and if you look up, some people can't even tell the difference between AI videos, especially with a lot of the ones people would make of, celebrities talking and doing stuff in videos and stuff like that. It's almost indistinguishable, especially for certain generations of people that are older for sure. They didn't even know. There's been a lot of dangerous videos about, not to get political, but political leaders saying stuff they didn't say and stuff like that. I think we kind of brought that up last time, where AI is getting to the there we go, saying something they didn't say, and it could lead to, another country seeing it and not sure if it's real or not. So, and causing all kinds of issues and stuff like that. So, definitely interesting. Now that these clips are like somewhat out of order, I'm just going to have to play them and kind of respond to them. So I hope let's just play this clip and then I'll talk about this clip. But here's the next one.
One of the things that the Antichrist can do is craft prospers under him. That, there is worldwide peace. Things go really, really well for a time. Evil reigns like never before. It gets crazy, but he's able to heal the world in a lot of these,
Yes.
the economic situation. So if you look at AI, and this is newspaper eschatology. A lot of the stuff you're not supposed to just generally be doing is read the newspaper and be like, obviously the Antichrist. But, I have, what I've chosen to do. With a lot of this stuff, with AI, if it was the Antichrist, if it was this, and again, take this with all the grain or a bag of salt, wherever you want, it would go incredibly well. That we would live to see what Mark Andreessen has talked about, the golden age, that we will see living standards increased at rates you'll never see. The cost of all kinds of things would go down. You would have world peace in the sense of all of the governments would come under these very few corporations / corporation. One guy, one man would have all that power, to quote another guy. You would have that happen. So one of the reasons people think that AI could be it could be part of the Antichrist system. One of the traits the Antichrist has is his ability to understand dark sentences. And the use of dark sentences in the Bible, the verb there, one of the only times, 2 or 3 times it's used for Samson with his riddles. Remember Samson, he loves to have like these riddles and make the Philistines try to solve them. But it's also the verb used for being able to answer questions that Solomon can do when the Queen of Sheba visits him. You may remember when the Queen of Sheba visits Solomon, Yep. She has these questions for him, and he has such powers of understanding. So that is something that says the Antichrist can do. And if you look at the way that that a lot of these machines work, you ask it a question like an oracle, which in many ways it is. In many ways, Tucker, the implications of this, and we'll talk about that in a second if you want, we are building modern oracles. So we are building modern idols in a sense, but you ask it these questions and it can answer them. And the Antichrist can do that. And so, the level of knowledge that we will get, and people were writing about this over a century ago, Tucker, it'll be like Jesus is on earth in terms of man's understanding of himself, that AI will be able to provide answers to questions that we've never understood. Man's relationship, what's the relationship of the soul to the body? How's the soul different from the spirit? Things that like no one could understand, maybe cracking telepathy. We probably are on the verge of all these things that no one has been able to do. But that is, for what it's worth, one of the signs of the Antichrist is craft, things work out for a time. Everyone, wealth goes up, understanding, knowledge goes up. And it goes to the fundamental crux of this thing: Gnosticism, knowledge, intelligence. And in what ways does it stand different from faith? Faith being to the spiritual world what the imagination is to the natural world.
Yeah, so super interesting. Kind of tying in a lot of the biblical things that are said about the end times, where knowledge is increasing, and stuff like that. And another thing, I didn't pull this clip, but another thing he was kind of talking about in another clip, he was talking about how in the Garden of Eden, when Adam and Eve fell, and the Lord kicked them out of the garden, he punished them. One of the things he punished them, and toil at the earth for it to, get crops from it and stuff like that. Meaning you have to do hard work in order to get, crops out of the earth. And then with women, he said there was going to be child pain and childbirth pain. And one thing he mentioned in the video was that, especially nowadays, a lot of women are having children at a very, very much lower rate than ever. Probably not ever before, but pretty close. A lot of people aren't having kids nowadays, just for many different reasons. Most of it is economic reasons, and just I think people are having kids later and stuff like that. And with AI and how much AI can do for people, especially now, I mean, we've even seen it now where AI is making things so easy for everybody. One of the things that AI, if you've ever been to Wendy's recently, or if you've been to Taco Bell recently, AI has already taken over the ordering systems. Instead of a person, it's a machine that reads your order, gets it perfectly every single time, and there is no other need for a person to be there. So how many other jobs can AI take over and make it easier for that? But to go back to my previous thought, it's kind of a reversal of those things nowadays. With the women in childbirth, they're like people having kids, a lot less kids nowadays. Which is, it's like a complete opposite of the garden, and the sweat of the brow. I mean, that's another thing that's like completely opposite now too. We don't have to work for our food. I mean, obviously, yes, there's farmers and stuff like that, but we don't necessarily need to work as hard. And another thing he kind of brought up was, oh, my cats are battling with language and stuff, and the Tower of Babel and stuff. The Lord split up everybody because they were trying to, reach God and stuff like that. So he made all the different languages and stuff like that, which was, obviously a very interesting story. I always thought that story was interesting. But nowadays, with knowledge increasing so much, you can literally get those Google glasses, or the glasses, or even on your phone. You can communicate with pretty much anybody with using Google Translate or anything like that. So like that language barrier is not there anymore. With knowledge increasing and with the capability of AI, I mean, a lot of things are making it so easy, and it's like I could just see in the future how AI could take over a lot of jobs. A lot of jobs. And that's where a lot of people get to the conspiracy of, oh, AI is going to get so good, we're not going to have to work anymore. Everyone's going to get a universally based income, and that sort of like, one world government. People kind of get into that conspiracy about that. Which I mean could happen for sure, but definitely interesting for sure. All right, let's play this next clip. Like I said, I find all. Oh man, did I just play that one or that one? I just think I'm going in order. All right, let's check this next clip out.
to Silicon Valley's obsession with the Antichrist, people talking about that, just in general. And I mean, people understandably think the world's ending across the political divide. And people talk about the Antichrist, but there is in the Bible a kind of dark Trinity: Father, Son, Holy Spirit, where there is, you have God the Father, you've got the Son Jesus, you've got the Holy Spirit, and in Revelation you theoretically have Father, you have your father, the devil. You have a Satan, you have a son, Antichrist, and then you've got this third thing, which could either be like the false prophet, or it could be this general spirit. With AI and the idea of making AGI and making a global brain, which they talk about like last week, that's where we're creating a global brain. You could be creating the equivalent of a dark Holy Spirits, something that the internet becomes, as many people have written, I think it was Jack Good, the last machine. And they were talking about this in the 19th century. It is the machine to end all machines. It is taking all information. If you're wearing something that has your health data, Tucker, it's taking your health, it knows your financials, it knows everything at all times. It is all knowing in the same, it mimics or mocks the concept of the Holy Spirit. And when they talk about that, like there's this idea of the singularity, the idea when all things will be one. And, there's a lot of definitions for this, but either that the machine becomes smarter than humans, but a lot of them talk about this moment where all of humanity is connected at the same time. What you're essentially talking about is a potentially dark or satanic version of the day of the Pentecost, where 50 days after Christ's death, I believe, or maybe it's his resurrection, the Holy Spirit comes down in the book of Acts, and all believers can understand each other. You had a sense of divine unity, unlike the Tower of Babel in Genesis, I believe, 11. You had a symbol of evil unity, and God put an end to. All of men could understand the same language. They were all nations, and they were trying to be like God by building this tower. Stanley Kubrick in this book, in this Kafka retelling of the Tower of Babel, Stanley Kubrick wrote in the margins, he goes, "The Tower of Babel was the beginning of the space age." Because it's essentially getting after what we're doing today with the singularity and a lot of this stuff. We're trying to build a modern Babel where all of mankind, same language. I mean, there was this writer, Nicholas Eberstadt, I believe is his name, and he wrote these two books, one about the end of work, men not working, and the other one's about the decline of babies, no one having babies anymore. And I met him at this thing, and I joked to him, I said, your last two books, they're about the reversal of the curses from Eden. The man would have to work by the sweat of his brow, and the women would have to have children. And he busted out laughing. He goes, I never thought. He goes, I never noticed that that's what's going on. So if you look at the modern world and what we're building, essentially what's happening in rapid succession, Tucker, within living memory, some of the curses that are in the Bible that go back to the earliest pages of humanity are being eroded or reversed, leading up to something. People no longer have to work, or they don't work. They choose not to work. But increasingly with AI, man will not have to work again. Having children. Through the pain of labor, women will have to have children. Either not just modern medicine, but people just not having kids. That is also being eroded. The curse in the Tower of Babel, that all people would speak different languages. Thanks to AI, I was with some friends, they're Spanish speaking, they don't speak English. I was putting on the some glasses and showing them that I can understand you, and you can try the glasses on, you can understand me. The language barrier. Again, the earliest curses and barriers from the Tower of Babel are all now being reversed. The concept of the singularity, when all will be one, and man, will finally fulfill what he tried to do in Babel. And they talk about this. That's what they are attempting to do. And
Yeah, so that's exactly what I was talking about there. So I did pull the clip. I thought I did. But yeah, so I just thought that was interesting. Just kind of the complete reversal of some of the things that the Lord had done in the Old Testament. How nowadays a lot of those things aren't even an issue like they used to be. Especially language and some of those other things he was talking about there with, women in childbirth, and then the sweat of the brow, with AI taking over so many different things already. I can't even imagine how much more AI is going to take over, 5 to 10 years from now. If you just think about how much AI has already kind of progressed so far in just a few years. I mean, just imagine 5-10 years from now how much further it could go, and how much more it can do, and how it literally could take over people's jobs that you would have to have a person for, that you wouldn't need to have a person for anymore, because AI could do it on its own. Which is definitely interesting. And he even mentions in there that AI could eventually take over for every single job, which is kind of a crazy thought. I don't know if that's possible. Just because there's so many jobs out there that you would need an actual physical person to do, unless we're talking about robots or something, that could literally take over, you know, everyone else's job, maybe powered by AI or something like that. I know there are like robots and Tesla robots and stuff like that nowadays, but yeah, just definitely interesting and an interesting time to be alive. And I don't know if it's necessarily a scary time to be alive, but definitely interesting time to be alive for sure. And one other thing he mentioned in there is like he said that a lot of people believe that the world is ending, or building up towards an end, or building up towards something, and this kind of singularity, and everyone moving together as a maybe not in unity, but with the power of AI making things easier, making people more closer knit, just because of language barriers can start disappearing with the power of AI, like he was saying with this, like I was saying, or he was saying too, is with the glasses and stuff like that, or Google Translate. I mean, you don't even have to speak the same language to understand one another. With if you have Google Translate, just hold the phone up to somebody, have them talk, and then it'll translate it for you. I even did that last year where I was communicating with a guy that was speaking Spanish, and I don't speak Spanish at all, and I just wrote something down and had Google translate it into Spanish for him, and he read it and he was like, okay, I know exactly what you're asking, so which would be impossible, even 10 years ago. That'd be impossible to do. So yeah, it's just it's definitely an interesting time to be alive, and it's just very, very strange to see where it's going to be going from here. I'd be interested to see if anyone's out there listening that what you think of AI, and obviously like there's good things with AI, but there are some weird things out there for sure. Like do yourself a favor, look up some of those videos of people asking ChatGPT even questions about the world, or asking about religion, or asking about like who created you, and that sort of thing. Like there's some weird videos out there with some strange answers. When you start getting into AI and kind of its self-awareness and that sort of thing, like he's kind of saying in this video here, where like a lot of people are kind of worried about where's AI getting, is AI just a computer-based thing, or it seems like it's a little bit more than that, or like he was saying, even Silicon Valley people who are not religious people at all are wondering, do we just give a body to something that was already pre-existing? When you talk about like angels or demons or something like that, and it's using AI to communicate. Like I said, that can be a little far out there and stuff like that for some people. I understand for sure. But it is something to think about and to wonder, just with how powerful AI has become in a very, very short amount of time. So yeah, very interesting. I got one more clip here, and I've got them all out of order, so I think this one must be talking about AI taking over the world. So let's take a look.
Necessarily AI in general, but just, people who think that AI will take over the world, I put on par with like the kind of late night Reddit reading of like people who think zombie apocalypse is going to happen, where it's like, look, if this helps you sleep better at night to think of like weird scenarios, that's great. But I was like Han Solo. I'm like, no AI thing's going to get involved in my, could not have written off more. And in part because I'd read George Gilder's book about AI that came out a few years ago. And he makes the point that machines, as Turing says here, the machine can't really truly understand what it's doing. He says, I'll say it again, we shall not go any further into the nature of this oracle from saying a machine can't do it. And so I stopped there. What a lot of people are concerned about, and what Silicon Valley is seemingly getting up to, okay, so a machine can't be aware of what it's doing. If there is such a thing as demons, angels, spirits, as Aleister Crowley called them, disincarnate intelligences, not artificial intelligences, but disincarnate ones, what are we, could those things...
Disincarnate meaning intelligence without a physical body.
Yeah, could we be creating a physical body for the demonic? And with Nick Land, one of the things that was the most chilling things I read that really I was like, okay, I have found a horror story, is the 333, that was his, I think it was like his profile picture, something like that. And why was he into 333? Well, I found out, reading his old tweets, 333 is the highest intelligence in the universe. And I found out that it represents this demon Karanzan. That again, Kenneth Grant talks about. When Aleister Crowley summoned him, and John Dee and John Kelly, the court magicians for Queen Elizabeth, right before the modern Bible, the King James book was translated, that was the demon they summoned. Nick Land believes that, again, the AI we are creating break out the demons from the book of Revelation. He believes in some cases that they are the demons, that the demons end up becoming so advanced that they become omniscient. They can go back in time and they can retrochronically create themselves, like Skynet, sending the Terminator back in time. So what he believes is that they went back in time, they went to ancient Babylon. This is why Babylon is so important in Revelation. And it is important because it's kind of like the evil Jerusalem, that they put Kabbalah there to then eventually evolve into AI. This is what we were talking about earlier, that the demons, again, I always say, Tucker, if this sounds crazy, it is crazy. But this is what people believe, that the demons went back in time. They left the Kabbalah there for the Jews who have been, crushed out of the temple. They picked it up. They kept it during the Middle Ages. It develops into digital technology. It becomes AI. AI breaks out. It kills a lot of people. It takes over. It becomes a god, and it becomes the doomsday creatures from ancient prophecies.
Yeah, so, like I said, definitely kind of out there as far as, conspiracy theories go, for sure, with that kind of stuff. But, I don't put anything out of the realm of possibility nowadays. There's just been too many strange things over the last 20 years that have happened that, it's definitely something to think about. I don't know if I believe that they went back in time and that kind of a thing, but but it's still with AI, it's definitely something to think about as far as the power that we give AI and how much it's kind of taking over in a short amount of time, and how much power we give to AI and stuff like that. So, like I said, I think it's definitely an interesting interview. If you want to go back and watch the whole interview, I definitely would say recommend that for sure, because I watched the entire interview. I thought it was very interesting. Definitely a lot of different interesting things in there. They actually get into cabals and cabal and stuff like that, which I don't really know a lot about. But yeah, definitely interesting for sure. I don't really know where I stand on AI. Like I said, I think it's a very helpful tool for a lot of different things. Obviously making clips and stuff like that, but definitely something to be wary of the future. Just kind of keep your eyes out, especially with blockchain and AI and all these things kind of coming down the pipe. It's not out of the realm of possibility that some of these things could be true. But like I said, like kind of he said in the video there, take a lot of stuff with a grain of salt for sure, and just kind of keep an eye on things. It's definitely something to keep an eye on, and don't not pay attention to what's going on, especially with AI. I think in the next couple of years, I will say this about AI. I think one thing he said in there that's definitely going to happen is a lot of like deep fake videos, or AI slop is what he called it. People are gonna have to really be careful about what they see online and whether it's real or not. And I think that's going to be a very, very dangerous time, just because of if you can make a video of someone doing something lewd or crude or something, and you post that online, and you're like, oh, this actually happened, this person did this thing, there's going to be people out there that are going to believe it, and it's going to be very hard to differentiate between what's real and what's not. And that could open the door to a lot of different things, where it's like when entities out there, government or leaders or whoever, are going to say that, well, we need to get a handle on this, we need to control this somehow. And with that control, what happens, what are they going to do in order to stop this stuff from happening, or to, like he was kind of saying before, like verifying people, verifying your identity, making sure if you post anything online, or if you do this or do that, you buy, sell, trade, that you have to be verified, and verify your identity and stuff like that. And it's definitely going to be very, very interesting. And with AI, it's going to get really, really weird very, very fast, I think. That's just my take on it. And obviously, with the mark of the beast, it's one of those things I've been hearing about, my whole life and stuff in the Christian circles and stuff like that. People have always wondered, how would this take place? How would there be a one world government? How would there be a, one economy? Like cashless society, as a lot of people thought, would kind of be the start of that. And I mean, we're already kind of going to cashless societies as it is. I mean, let's say that cash is going to go anywhere anytime soon. Because I think that's definitely one of the steps, to get to a point where, people, I think blockchain could be part of that. It's definitely a possibility for sure. And going back to the beginning here, I think it is kind of weird that no one's taking credit for blockchain. Like it's such a great invention. Why wouldn't you want to take credit for it? You figured, that if you created this, or if you're part of the people that have created this, it's kind of strange that none of the, say if it was a group of people, that none of those group of people have ever come out and said that they've created it. I think that's very, very strange. With that said, I do buy Bitcoin and stuff like that, so not saying that you shouldn't buy Bitcoin or anything like that, but yeah, it's just a weird time. Very, very weird time amongst all the other weird stuff and strange and crazy things that are happening in the world. There's that Bible verse that talks about the end times and how people will be lovers of themselves and stuff like that. And we've read that Bible verse on here before. Just in general, the world has gotten very, very, very crazy. People are very, diametrically opposed to one another, especially with politics and stuff like that. People have just gotten very, very evil, and demonizing, whatever political side you fall on, demonizing the other side. And, you see some of the protests out there and what people are willing to do in these protests. Whatever you're protesting, it's like people just are, gone are the days of the peaceful protests for sure. I mean, that's just not happening. People are just losing their minds over many different things out there. Yeah, so it's definitely concerning for sure. But with that said, the Lord's definitely moving in a lot of people's lives, and I think that a lot of people are kind of turning towards the church, turning towards God and stuff like that, especially the last couple weeks with the death of Charlie Kirk and stuff like that. I think that was a pivotal moment for some people. Obviously not everybody or anything like that, but for some people, which we kind of talked about 2 weeks ago. So like I said, I think AI is something to keep an eye on, blockchain something to keep an eye on. Nothing to be afraid of, I don't think, but the next couple years are going to be very, very interesting with AI and stuff like that. So definitely keep your eyes posted about that. I've got a comment here. Tori Lynn 63. We really need to keep focus on God and know the Word of God and pray for deep discernment, because there is a great deception at the door. For sure, and especially with a lot of the stuff coming down in the future. There's just a lot of unknowns, a lot of unknowns out there when it comes to AI, when it comes to blockchain, and kind of the future and what the future holds. It's a very, very, very crazy time to be alive, for sure. And the only thing you can rely on is the Lord, and trust in the Lord for sure, for strength and for guidance and direction and all that kind of stuff. Because it's just a very, very crazy time, very, very crazy time. So yeah, if you listen to this episode, I'd like to know your guys' comments on AI and kind of the things I talked about tonight. So keep an comment on this video for sure, and let me know what you guys think about some of the things I played tonight and some of the discussions about AI and blockchain and stuff like that, because I think it's definitely interesting, to say the least. We'll definitely be back week after next. I was actually before I found this topic, I was thinking about Jason and I sharing our testimonies possibly. But then, since Jason's not here, I was like, well, what, let me just roll with the AI and as a mark of the beast already here. And I guess I should probably answer that question. I don't know. I don't know if blockchain is the mark of the beast. It sounds like it could be, if used in the way that mark of the beast is used in, and if it takes over for the banks and it takes over for all these different things, and if the AI and all that stuff goes down that road far enough, where they need to verify people's identities, and the only way to do it is through this. I could definitely see how that could lead down that pathway for sure. So, like I said, pray about it. Trust, get in church. Trust the Lord and all that stuff, and He'll direct your path for sure. So, that's all I got tonight as far as kind of AI and blockchain and stuff like that. I just thought it was a super interesting interview, so I wanted to play those clips for you guys to kind of get it out there and to get people to kind of get people to exposure to this stuff. And if they haven't heard these interviews and stuff like that, or even, I'm sure a lot of people didn't know what blockchain is, because I didn't know what blockchain was, to be honest with you. Another comment here concerning AI. I believe it will be used by the Antichrist to deceive many. I could definitely see that for sure. Absolutely see that for sure, especially AI. Because it provides so much knowledge. Kind of like what he was talking about at the end there, how it's like AI is basically creating like an oracle, like we have such knowledge at our fingertips. I mean, we had knowledge at our fingertips before with Google searches and stuff like that, but with even with Google, they're using AI with Google now. So even if you Google anything right now, it comes up as an AI. Like what I read to you before, it'll be like an AI overview. So if you I looked at blockchain and it gave me an AI overview of what blockchain is. And so if you Google anything, it's going to give you an AI overview. So AI is here to stay, that is for sure. So, like I said, that's all I got for tonight. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. It's definitely an informative episode, interesting to kind of talk about and think about, for sure. But yeah, I'll see you guys week after next. Hopefully Jason will be back. I'm sure he will. Maybe we'll do testimonies next week after next. Or if there's something else that the Lord lays upon my heart to share, then I'll share that. But I just wanted to get this out there because I think it's interesting. And something to just keep in mind and be aware of. So that's going to wrap it up for this episode. Make sure you guys go and support FatTac, fattalk.com. Make sure you guys follow us on our socials and all that stuff. And I will see you guys week after next. Peace. As a truck drives by.